400 years ago, a prophecy was etched into the soil of a newborn land, a covenant made not by kings, but by pilgrims kneeling in the freezing wind upon the shores of a vast and wild continent. They spoke not of conquest, but of consecration. They said, "This nation shall be a light, a city on a hill, if we remain true to God." And for 400 years, America rose. But what happens when a nation forgets its vow? Brother, you feel it, don't you? Not in the news, not on the screens, but deep inside you. Something is breaking. A fracture in the soul of a people. You look around and men are lost, fatherless, disconnected, hollowed out by distraction, searching for love, for strength, for identity, but finding only rejection, addiction, and silence. You were told to be strong, but never shown how. Told to lead, but never taught who to follow. Told to find yourself without knowing where you came from. And yet the ancient voices still call. The same God that watched over the Mayflower watches you now. The same purpose they carried across an ocean still waits for you to rise into it. This is not just a history lesson. This is a summons, a warning, and a hope. The fall of a nation begins with the fall of its men. But the restoration of a generation, it starts with you. A house cannot stand if it forgets the foundation it was built on. America didn't begin the way most nations did. Not by the sword, not by an empire, not by the lust for gold or the thirst for power. No, before there were cities, before there was a Congress, a constitution, or even a flag, there was a vow, a covenant. Picture it, a cold November wind tearing through the Atlantic air, weary faces, salt-stung eyes, men and women kneeling on the shores of a strange and wild world. Their feet touched this land, and the first thing they did was not to build a house, not to claim territory, but to kneel and pray. They said, "Lord, if you bring us to this new world, we will dedicate it to you. We will be a city upon a hill." It was a covenant spoken into the soil. And for 400 years, the blessings came. Freedom, abundance, innovation, waves of prosperity that no other nation had known. But hear this, the moment you forget the vow, the blessing begins to wither. When the root is severed, the tree dies, no matter how green the leaves once were. And my brother, it's not just America that's forgotten. You have a covenant too. You see, before you were born, God had a purpose for you, a destiny. You were not made for failure, addiction, confusion, or lust. You were made to walk with fire in your bones and clarity in your eyes, to carry strength wrapped in humility, to protect, to build, to lead. But like this nation, you forgot. You didn't mean to. No one showed you the way. Maybe your father wasn't there. Maybe the church let you down. Maybe the culture fed you lies day after day until you couldn't hear the voice of God over the noise of your phone. But the covenant still stands. God does not forget. He remembers. The vow He made to you still waits. And now He calls you back. Because if a nation can rise on a vow, then one man can rise by returning to it. So let the others chase fame. Let them drown in pleasure. Let them laugh at God. But as for you, remember who you are. Remember who you belong to. Come back to the covenant. Because when a man returns to his foundation, he becomes unshakable. And that's the beginning of rising again. When men fall, nations follow. There's something we're not talking about, brother. It's this thing we all feel in the air. This slow, quiet collapse. We look around at the world, at the younger generation, and we feel it. A sickness in the soul of a people. And it's not just the world, it's us. It's you. Do you know why there's such confusion in your heart? Why every day feels like you're trying to run through molasses? Why your relationships fall apart faster than they ever began? It's because we as men have fallen. Not physically, no, but spiritually, emotionally. We've been led to believe that strength is brute force. That masculinity is about how much you can push, how much you can take, how much you can win in the eyes of the world. But this world, it's wrong. That's not strength. Strength is knowing where you're going. It's knowing what you stand for. It's knowing who you follow. What I'm seeing today, what I'm hearing from so many young men, is this deep sense of loss. You don't know who to be, so you're trying to be everything. And in the end, you become nothing. The confusion, the restlessness, the addiction, it's all symptoms of the same disease, fatherlessness. The absence of the father isn't just a physical absence, it's a spiritual one. And you feel it deep inside you. The ache, the longing for something solid, something unshakable. You don't know what it is, but you know you don't have it. You know there's something you're missing, something you're chasing, but it's always out of reach. You've been told to be tough, to be stoic, to be a man. But no one's told you what that really means. No one's shown you how to walk through the storms, how to hold your head up when everything around you is falling apart. And so you search for strength in the wrong places. You search in relationships, in validation, in hollow pleasures, and still you find yourself empty. But I've got to tell you the truth, my brother, you are not weak. You're just lost. The strength is still there, buried deep inside you, waiting to be reclaimed. Strength doesn't come from chasing power. It comes from purpose, from knowing who you are in God's eyes, from walking with Him even when the world says it doesn't make sense. Real masculinity isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about being the strongest in your convictions. It's about leading when no one else will. It's about loving when everyone else has forgotten how. It's about standing when others crumble, because you know you've got something unshakable holding you up. And that's how nations are rebuilt. By men who rise, not because they have all the answers, but because they know who to follow. So it's time, brother. It's time to find your strength. It's time to stop searching in all the wrong places. Because the real power, the real strength, the true masculinity is waiting for you. It's within you. And when you tap into that, nothing in this world can stand against you. We are living in an age where connection has never been easier. And yet, we've never been more alone. You can send a message across the world in a second and still feel completely invisible in your own city, in your own skin. We have access to thousands of faces, profiles, voices. And yet most young men don't even know how to look someone in the eyes anymore. We've replaced real connection with convenience. We've exchanged covenant for chemistry. And we call it love. But it's not love. It's lust. It's loneliness dressed up in a filter and a swipe. Young men, listen, dating today is not broken just because women changed or culture shifted. Dating is broken because men forgot their identity. You weren't created to chase women to fill a void. You were created to walk in purpose and attract what aligns with the man you're becoming. But how can you lead a relationship when you can't even lead your own emotions? How can you love a woman when you're still bleeding from wounds you never healed? How can you build something sacred when you've been taught your entire life that women are either prizes to win or problems to avoid? This generation is confused, not because truth disappeared, but because we traded it for lies that sounded more comfortable. The lie that masculinity is toxic. The lie that feelings are weakness. The lie that heartbreak is just part of the game. But your soul knows better. That ache you feel in the silence, that's not weakness. That's your spirit crying out for something real. And real love. Real love isn't something you find when you finally win at dating. It's something you become. You become a man who is grounded, anchored, whole, not perfect, but honest. You become a man who doesn't ghost, doesn't manipulate, doesn't hide behind fake confidence and shallow games. You become a man who knows his worth because he's met the one who gave him worth. God didn't create you to be a slave to dopamine. He didn't design you to scroll through brokenness looking for validation in strangers' eyes. You were made for covenant, for mission, for something sacred. But if you want that, you must be willing to step out of the cycle. You must be willing to stop asking, how can I get love? And start asking, how can I become love? Because when you become love, the right person will not complete you, or they will recognize you. And that changes everything. They told you strength was about muscles, about power, about how loud your voice is or how many zeros are in your bank account. But let me tell you, that's not real strength. That's noise, that's surface. And the surface can crack the moment life hits hard. Real strength, the kind this generation has forgotten, is sacred. It's silent, and it's forged in fire. Real strength is carrying the weight of pain and not passing it on to others. It's being stabbed in the back and still choosing not to become bitter. It's standing when no one claps for you. It's staying faithful when no one sees you. It's protecting when it's easier to abandon. That's strength. That's masculinity the way God designed it. The problem isn't that young men are weak. The problem is we've confused the definition of strength. The culture says, do what you feel. God says, do what is right. The culture says, win at all costs. God says, lay your life down. That doesn't make you soft. It makes you dangerous to the darkness. You were made to carry something holy. Not just ambition, not just drive, but fire. A sacred fire in your bones that doesn't burn out when life gets hard, because it's not fueled by ego, but by calling. But that fire can only survive if you're connected to the source. You can build your body, you can learn the tactics, you can master the game. But if your soul is empty, your strength will collapse when it's tested, and it will be tested. Your future wife is going to need a man who can lead with peace when the storms come. Your children will need a father who doesn't explode under pressure. Your community will need a man who shows up even when he's tired, who prays even when he's confused, who stands for truth even when it costs him everything. You don't get that kind of strength in a gym. You get it in surrender. You get it when you go to your knees in the quiet place and say, God, make me into the kind of man this world can't break. Not a man who impresses, a man who anchors. Because the future of this nation does not depend on more powerful men. It depends on more rooted ones. And it begins with you. Let the fire fall, but let it fall on a man who can carry it. There is a wound in the heart of this generation, and no one wants to talk about it. You can feel it in the silence. You can see it in the eyes of young men walking through life like ghosts, breathing but not alive. There's a fracture that runs deep through the soul of our nation, and it's the wound of the father. Some of you were raised by a man who never told you he was proud. Some of you never had a father at all, just a memory, a name, a shadow that never showed up. And now you carry that absence like a weight across your chest. You wonder why it's hard to trust, why you flinch at love, why you feel the need to prove yourself in every room you walk into. Because the boy inside of you never heard the words, you're enough, you're loved, you're a man, and I see you. And let me tell you something that most people won't. That pain is real. You are not crazy. You are not weak. You were just never shown how to heal. We live in a time where boys are expected to become men without guidance, without mentors, without maps. And what happens? You bury your pain. You hide behind sex, success, sarcasm, or silence. But a buried wound doesn't disappear. It rots. And if you don't face it, you'll pass it on. The cycle repeats. Fatherlessness breeds more fatherlessness. Anger breeds more anger. Abandonment breeds more abandonment. Until someone finally says, enough. And I'm here to tell you today, you are that someone. You are not cursed. You are called. You don't have to become what hurt you. You don't have to repeat what broke you. You can rise above it, but not by pretending it didn't happen. By bringing it to the light. Your Father in heaven saw everything you went through. Every moment you cried alone. Every time you asked, why didn't he stay? Why didn't he choose me? And he says this to you now, I never left, and I am still calling you by name. This is the generation that must break the chain. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to be willing. The man who chooses healing over hiding, who chooses faith over fear, who chooses to become the father he never had, that man doesn't just change his life, he changes generations. If America falls, it will not be because of bombs or armies. It won't be because of presidents or politics. It will be because men stop standing. A nation is only as strong as its men, not in muscle but in morality, not in swagger but in sacrifice. And we are watching a generation collapse, not because evil has grown stronger, but because good men have gone silent. You were not made to be passive. You were not made to hide in comfort while the world burns. There is a war right now, not of flesh and blood, but of spirit and truth. And the enemy's goal is not just to confuse you, it's to erase you, to convince you that masculinity is shameful, that discipline is toxic, that your voice doesn't matter, that your soul doesn't need God. But I'm telling you now, that is the lie, the truth. You were born for such a time as this. This generation is crying out for fathers, husbands, warriors, and watchmen on the wall. And you have two choices: be another casualty of culture, or rise as a remnant that cannot be shaken. God has always worked through remnants. He doesn't need millions. He needs one man who says, I won't bow. One man who says, I'll break the chains in my family. One man who says, I'll live with integrity even if I stand alone. And when one man stands, others follow. It ignites something. It lights a fire the world cannot put out. But here is the final warning: time is running out. This world is speeding toward destruction. And if you wait for the perfect moment to become the man you were born to be, you'll wait until it's too late. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be awake. Now is the time to repent. Now is the time to rebuild. Now is the time to stop blaming and start becoming. Young man, you are not forgotten. You are not too far gone. There is a crown with your name on it, but you must pick it up. There is a sword at your feet, but you must wield it. There is a legacy waiting, but you must live it. The darkness is loud, but heaven is louder, and it's calling you, remnant, rise. So maybe you've been watching this in silence. Maybe your chest feels tight right now. Maybe there's a lump in your throat you can't swallow, because something deep inside of you knows this wasn't just a message. It was your wake-up call. You've been numb for too long. You've been waiting for someone to call you out of the fog, to tell you that your story isn't over. Well, here it is. You are not alone. You are not too broken. And you are not meant to walk this road in silence. If this message hit you, if it lit something in your spirit, don't let it fade. Don't scroll past it like another motivational clip. This is not entertainment. This is a lifeline. Leave a comment. Tell your story. Say, I'm ready. Say, I'm done hiding. Say whatever is real. But say something. Because other men are going to read your words and realize they're not alone either. And that's how the remnant rises together. Hit the like button if this spoke to you. Not just for the algorithm, but to mark this moment. To say, yes, I needed this. Share this with the men in your life. The ones hurting in silence. The ones who look strong on the outside but are breaking on the inside. Let this message find them like it found you. And subscribe, not just for content, but because we're building something here. A movement, a brotherhood, a generation of men who refuse to fall asleep while the world collapses. Men who wake up and fight. This isn't the end of the video. This is the beginning of your return. So stand up. Speak up. Because this world is waiting and heaven is watching.